Hello, thank you for watching. Jared Hood. So most of my video, actually all of my videos so far on YouTube have been about football. So I'm gonna try to expand a little bit and do some different sports because I don't just watch football, but football is the most popular and probably the most fun to talk about and debate. So if you are watching, thank you. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends. Trying out here. Hopefully this turns into something bigger. Still working on it. Haven't even really done a whole lot with that. Been very busy, but keeping up with sports. So, going to talk about some Sixers today. I'm a huge Philadelphia sports fan. I've talked about that before. I'm going to talk about LeBron. I'm going to talk about I love LeBron as well. We'll talk about the Bucks and Brady. I'll talk about the Carson Wentz situation, and that'll probably lead into some more quarterback talk. And then the start of NASCAR. Not going to say I'm going to give a preview or anything. I'm not the best educated with it, but I enjoy NASCAR. So, again, starting with the Sixers. So I wanted to start with them because they're the best team in the league right now. This has been such a great year to be a Sixers fan. I mean, you got Joel Embiid playing like an MVP. Look, everybody before the season was trying to say, "Oh, they're gonna trade Ben Simmons. They're gonna trade Ben Simmons." And I laughed. I just kept laughing. That'd be ridiculous. We're not, the Sixers are not trading Ben Simmons. And then Moore came out a couple times, the GM or head of operations or co-GM, whatever you want to call him. He said they're not trading Ben Simmons. And then a couple more reports come out, they're not trading Ben Simmons. A couple more reports, they're not trading Ben Simmons. And after like the third time he said it, I was like, all right, well, not only do I think it would be dumb, they're not trading Ben Simmons. So look, Ben Simmons is my personal favorite. When I had my child, when my girlfriend had my child a couple years back, I always said Ben Simmons is my favorite, and Joel Embiid's going to be his favorite, right? Because not as only is Embiid fun and he's the energetic guy, he's going to be the top dog for a very long time. And I'm glad that they fell into mesh. I don't want to call it order, he's 1B, Ben, but it's almost like, okay, Joel took I'm not just the leader as when you give me the ball, I do what I need to do. He's the leader all around. And Ben does that as well. Ben is much of a leader. Tobias Harris, you got to give him a ton of credit. What he's done on the court, you got to give him credit. But if you listen to him talk, I mean, he's a leader in that locker room. So not only has that stepping stone started to really work out, but like I said, them two falling together is just it. All the questions and all the stuff, and they always brushed it off. So I was always confident, like, all right, do I know? No. But do I think? Yeah, I think they're pretty good. And they seem pretty good, right? The joke this year where Ben said, "Oh, I'm going to live with Joel for the season." I mean, this year they've been more in the open about being friends and wanting to play together and all that, and it really kind of, I think, put an end to those dumb talks, and I think that might be why they're doing it. But either way, so I talked about Tobias and how fantastic he's been, and he got a Player of the Month, if I'm not mistaken. He deserved the Player of the Week he got it, though, a couple weeks ago. What can you say about it? I mean, I wasn't a fan of the max contract. Wasn't It just didn't work out without Horford. Again, Ben Simmons. Let me go back to him real quick before I explain Tobias Harris. The Ben Simmons not shooting a three thing has never been a big deal to me. I said he's my favorite player on the Sixers, so I mean, obviously, it couldn't be that big of a deal to me. To me, it's because of how much he brings to the rest of the game. And the stat was there when he didn't have shooters, 3-point shooters last year. He had the most, he gave the most opportunities for a team to shoot three-pointers. That's including if you make your three-pointers, right? So, like, he's the reason that they scored more threes than anybody else in his career than any other team. He is the purpose of that. So, I've always kind of not cared too much about him shooting. I hope I explained that well. That's why I didn't care about him shooting three too much. Would it be nice for him to take one, maybe two a game just to keep them honest? Sure, absolutely. I wouldn't disagree with that. It'd be awesome. When you play basketball, when the only thing you're not doing is shooting the basketball, of course people are going to have questions and then they're going to scratch their head. But to me, Ben Simmons, if he has a 7-point game with 9 rebounds and 13 assists, they're probably going to win. And also, hard to argue against him as the defensive player of the year. I mean, seriously, the first couple games this season, if you looked at what he did, where he just locked down superstar after superstar, and then I can give you an example of just last week. Harden ended up with like 30 some points in the game. He had 13 against Ben, because when Ben got on him, the game went from being close. And I know KD wasn't playing, so I would like to see that matchup as well. But it went from being close to not close at all because Harden stopped being able to get those shots off because Ben Simmons was covering him. It's just he's having so far this year Defensive Player of the Year season. He's not even on the All-Star ballot from what I see. So ridiculous. But this All-Star year is probably going to end up being a joke anyways. Do I think they should play? Sure, because that's part of the contract. That's this, that, and the next thing. Do I think they should complain openly about it? Probably not. Like, you and I didn't love that from LeBron. Do I agree with them playing? It's a pandemic, so I understand them not wanting to play as well. A meaningless All-Star game. That's in the labor negotiations, and they probably could have discussed that before the year, because I'm pretty sure they had to sign off on some special COVID stuff this season, so could have probably bargained that. But again, I'm usually pro player, so I understand where they're feeling on this one, but I'm also like, yeah, the league has a really good point here. Like, you signed up for this, so and it brings a monster ratings. It brings everything you'd want to the game. People watching. I mean, I know when I was a kid, I was one of my most exciting things. I mean, so it helps. It's just I get it. It expands the brand. I'll move on back to the Sixers. Tobias Harris playing as good as he was. Seth Curry, not Steph. Seth. He's 50 points from inside the two, 50 points inside the three, 50 points from 3-point, 50 points from the free throw line. 100% from the 3-point. Point line. So he's 50%, 50%, 100%. He's going to be the first ever in the history of basketball to do that. If he does that for the season, incredible. And he has like a night probably every 3 or 4 games where it's like, all right, he only gets like 9, 6, 3 points. I mean, it's happened. But for the most part, dude's going out there and getting 13, 18, 24. Like he's putting it in. And so I love to see, like, you put a shooter around Ben Simmons. You put a shooter around Joel Embiid. Danny Green, hot and cold. I'm not the biggest on-court Danny Green guy, but look, all you ever hear is about what he does off the court. So if his leadership is that valuable, and yeah, to me, you could play Shake Milton in his spot. And I understand you can even split their minutes the same, like a little more Shake Milton, obviously, but kind of the same way, a little like, and just start Shake and put him like he plays a lot of majority of the big situation. It's just a 6-man. No, I don't think Shake's gonna win 6-man, but he's had a bunch of monster games as well. Dwight Howard off the bench. I mean, I can go on and on about this Sixers team. I don't know what happened about Howard. I don't know what happened with Maxey. My guy Matisse. Not getting as much minutes, Mike Scott. But, I mean, when Matisse is on the court, he's been super valuable defensively. And so in the beginning, it wasn't all that much. But he is on the court in very big moments defensively now. That's shout out to Doc Rivers. And look, well, Glenn, as he wants to be called now. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge basketball coach, influences a whole lot in the game. And I'm also not a huge Doc Rivers fan. I didn't hate Brett Brown. I was okay with, look, I said last year you got to give him that year, but if he didn't succeed last year, which he didn't, and I wasn't even like, you can't even blame the injuries. They did not live up to expectations last year. So it was time. You had to go. And I did like him as a coach, but I was wrong. The Doc Rivers has brought, on top of the shooters coming in, because I think that has as much input as anything, the culture shift and just the attitudes and the way they talk to the media. I mean, Tobias was on this level last year talking to me, but everything just seems to be more polished, I guess. And it's more important than I thought, I think, seeing it firsthand with the Sixers. So, but I'll talk about LeBron James. Speaking of coach doesn't really matter, right, for wins. I mean, nothing against Frank Vogel, who I think did a fantastic job last year. Doing a great job this year as well. But when LeBron James is playing the way LeBron James is playing, I could coach, and they'd probably win most of these games. Double overtime one of these games. And I'm not trying to take any credit away from Big Vogel, because I'm a nobody. But double overtime wins games, he hit the game winner, so they didn't go into 3 overtime. The other 2 games, that was sandwiched in between 2 overtime games, where he had the game-winning play in both those games. LeBron James at 36 years old, and I talked about how I think I'm, MVP, right? I can't. LeBron James is the MVP of the NBA, and I hate, I don't want to say that, because I do love LeBron, but I want Embiid. This is Embiid's year. I mean, he puts up 31, and it looks like he's not trying sometimes. So they can't win if he's off the court. All they do is win when Embiid's on the court. MVP is definition of what Embiid's doing, but at 36 years old, the things LeBron James is doing for his team as well is just as important. It's just... Look, I can't sit there and yell that he was robbed the last couple of years the way he was robbed the last couple of years and then tell you that my guy is now, going to rob him of it and he's deserving. No, he is deserving. If he wins the MVP, it's nothing against Embiid. But to me, right now, LeBron is just... his advanced numbers are incredible. He's shooting the best he's ever has from 3. He's as efficient as he ever has been. He's getting a ton of assists, a ton of rebounds. He is... The Lakers are doing what they're doing. He's not missing any time, right? Isn't that the big knock back in the day, right? So, he's 36 years old. I'm not going to get into that stupid debate, but longevity is going to start creeping into it, and that it's going to be interesting to see where that goes with everybody. Finish this year first, though, and we'll get to that dumb debate, I guess. No debate on who the GOAT is in football. Tom Brady living his best life. I want to talk about them real quick. So I know everyone's kind of getting on them for the parade, and I understand that. As somebody before the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I was like, "What are these people doing? That's making these proclamations." Nah, I was at the Eagles Super Bowl parade, and I'll tell you right now, I drank the Kool-Aid. I was going back to back to back. We were, you know what I mean? So it's funny that where we're at with the Eagles situation, and I'll talk about that in a second, because it can fall apart so fast. But when you're standing at that parade and that trophy passes you, or they're standing on that stage with that trophy, it's really hard not to say the things Bruce Arians said or their GM said. So I get it. And when you have Tom Brady, it's hard to also not think that, we'll do it next year. Why not? Everybody's telling him coming back. So, Mike Evans said he'll take a pay cut. I don't know what Chris Godwin said. He'll probably want to go get some money, but we'll see. Fournette said if they'll have him back, he'll come back. Gronk wants to come back. Sounds like AB obviously wants to come back. Adrian Peterson already said he wants to go there, and he was kind of productive. But so everyone's on them very hard. Tom had fun at the parade, well deserving, and he should have had fun. Good for him. Incredible year to them. I just wanted to just kind of talk about their parade quick. Carson Wentz. It was a week ago that we were all told that in the next coming days, there's going to be a blockbuster trade with him involved. I didn't know if I believed it or not at the time, and it wasn't necessarily that I don't think he's getting traded. It just doesn't. March 15th, there's a lot of money transaction that goes on that day. You got to watch. I think March 19th is the day that Dak has to be franchised by, but there's different dates for the new league year that things happen on for contracts. But all of them are within that first bracket week or whatever it is. I think March 15th for Carson, and I think it's March 19th for Dak. Those are the dates to watch. But for Carson, after that, it does kind of seem feasible for the Eagles to trade him and for somebody to maybe even eat a little bit of it because it would make more sense for that way. I'm not saying they don't do it before then because I feel like I've sounded a little arrogant whenever I've talked on social media about it. And not that I don't if it happens before then, it happens. But it just money wise makes sense for everyone involved, other than Carson Wentz, for it to happen after March 15th. So, do I think he's getting traded at this exact moment? It doesn't feel like it. And I know people are saying they're asking for too much. What would you ask for? I know one does sound too much. I get it. It sounds like it is because of how bad he played last season. But you have to take a lot of factors into last season, and if you can go from before last season, I get it. The back injury, the ACL. You want to talk about the injuries? Okay, that's fine. But when he was playing with the back injury, he didn't play well. Outside of those games before last season, like the season where he got benched for Jalen Hurts, his career every game, I mean, he's been next level. He's been doing things that are right there with some of the best players in like to ever play the position. And I'm not saying he's that. I'm just saying he has tendencies, and there's stuff there. There's things that will tell you that. Yeah, I mean, if you're trading for him, do you believe he's the future? Like, if you're getting him for free, obviously, then I think everybody would be involved. But they're not going to give him away for free, and giving him away for a second and a third is not probably feasible to come back to your owner with when you use a second overall pick with him for him a couple years ago. And I think they traded like 5 picks overall. Like 5 years in, it's the organization's fault they're even in this situation. Like, you didn't build well around him, so he looked terrible this year. You go back and watch Game 1 of the Washington Philadelphia at Washington this year. You go see what he did when they were up 24-0. What he looked like at that moment, and you tell me that if the rest of the season wasn't as well blocked and as well caught and as well play called and as well ran, that he actually looks as bad as he did, and he eventually gets sacked for Jalen Hurts. It's hard to make that connection. So that's why I'm like, I think teams also feel the same way that I feel about it. There's a good chance that his future is going to be just fine if you put the right things around him. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Tom Brady. There's a lot of things, like Tom Brady in his peak could make some things happen with nobody around him. Even Tom Brady a couple of years ago could make some things happen with not a lot around him. So Carson's maybe not that. Carson can do that with a really good offensive line. Those two guys can do it maybe with nothing. But again, I'm not saying that he's them. So that's where I think people just either go from you have to suck or you have to be really, really good. Carson's, I think, closer to the really, really good, but he's neither of those two things at the moment. And in the future, I think there's a better chance he turns into the really good than the sucking sooner. Right now, sooner than later. Oh, everyone falls off. I mean, Cam Newton fell off. Might be going to Washington, speaking of Washington. But so I hope that summed up the Carson Wentz situation half decent. Where I think he goes, clearly Chicago and Indy have to be involved somehow. I know the reports out there is that they're not talking, but it makes a lot of sense for both of those. I know New England's hacking it, throwing and everything, but think of him and Bill Belichick, or him and John Gruden in Las Vegas, or Carson. Look, I'm like, hey, you know what? Russell Wilson sounds unhappy. Let's swap, Chris Carson, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, all in this deal. How about the Eagles give a first and next year's second and third, right? I'm like, for Russell Wilson, yeah, I'm in. But we have to also block better if that's what's going to happen. If you get Carson, or if you get Russell Wilson in return, that's what he's mad about, right? So we probably wouldn't want to go to the Eagles right now. Moving on to the next topic. You have to be Deshaun Watson good to do what Deshaun Watson's doing. Like, the Texans released J.J. Watt. He would have gotten $17.5 million next year, and it cost them nothing to release J.J. Watt today. So it makes sense. But Deshaun Watson has a couple years left on his contract. He just signed an extension before the season. You have to be Deshaun Watson good to do what he's doing. You have to be Russell Wilson good to have the conversations he's having out in the open. You have to be Aaron Rodgers good to poke the bear. I think we're good. Like, Matt Stafford asked for a trade. It works out because when the Lions are getting a whole new regime, all right, we'll give you that because of what you've done for the organization, and they have to move forward as well, right? So it's not hard to shop a Matt Stafford. If the Falcons wanted to shop Matt Ryan, there would be a market for him today. So it's there, and I think Tom Brady doing what he did last year, where he looked at the Patriots a couple years ago, and he was starting to not openly necessarily talk about it, but there was leaks out there where it was clearly he was looking for more. And then he went and got more on his own. So it's hard to be those guys watching that Super Bowl and thinking, all right, well, He picked Leonard Fournette. He called Gronk. He housed AB twice now. I mean, when you're watching that Super Bowl, it's hard not to be like, all right, yeah. I mean, why can't I say who plays with me? Why can't I decide where I might try to win the championship at and who I want to play for and with? You have to be a certain level of good, though, to do that. So, like, player empowerment in the NBA, back when LeBron did this, it did expand a lot, and the NBA ended up paying, like, not nobodies, but the guys not even seeing the floor. Those guys are getting a ton of money right now. Less players, more money, though, right? So the NFL is the 53-man rosters, and that's just on game day. I mean, this takes almost another army to just run, to run drills against them. So, no, I mean, there's another 20 or 30 players, though, right? I think it's 20. I think it's a 70-some guys. I think you can get 20 guys on the practice squad. So, I mean, you're really, and that deserves that. And then you have injury reserve. You have all this other stuff that just, you can get up to, I think it's like 90-some guys some years that you have to pay. It's a lot different. So it's not as easy to be able to be like, yeah, I'm going to play with this. I'm going to play with no. But if you're that good, sure, why not? I mean, Le'Veon Bell tried it. It didn't work out all that well. You got to play at it in a Super Bowl. I don't know, how many snaps did he get? Was at a Super Bowl with the team this year, but it didn't. The debt situation didn't go well. I mean, bad team. So what are you gonna do? Got a lot of money though. And I supported him when he did that because, hey, man, if you're going to tell them you're not going to play on the franchise tag, which, like, Dak Prescott could just walk to the Cowboys right now and be like, I'm not going to play this year if you're going to franchise tag me. Now, he's not going to do that because he wants the money.